next 20 minutes are going to be the most exciting of your life.
It's me! I'm here to rescue you!
Imagine a scene where ordinary teenagers suddenly find themselves hurtling through the darkness of space.
We're burning up!
Unprepared and terrified. The Earth, their home, shrinks to a blue marble outside their window as alarms blare and oxygen levels drop. This isn't a nightmare. It's the premise of 1986's Spacecamp, where a routine NASA simulation becomes a fight for survival when a well-meaning robot accidentally launches a group of kids into orbit.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've achieved orbit.
When Spacecamp launched in theaters in June 1986, America's relationship with space exploration was at a critical juncture. Just 5 months earlier, the nation had witnessed the Challenger disaster unfold on live television, a tragedy that shook NASA and the public's confidence in the space program. Spacecamp's release couldn't have come at a more complicated moment, as its fictional accidental launch mirrored all too recent real-world fears. With a modest budget of $18 million,
The nose at 30 degrees.
the film struggled at the box office, earning only $9.7 million domestically, a victim of its unfortunate timing rather than its quality. Yet this financial disappointment obscures what the film actually accomplished as a time capsule of America's enduring fascination with space. In this video, we'll explore how Spacecamp captured the nation's complicated relationship with space exploration during the mid-'80s and eventually found its audience as a cult classic. From its technical achievements to its surprisingly strong performances, we'll discover why this film continues to resonate with viewers who grew up dreaming of touching the stars. But first, let's talk about how this film pulled off its impressive space sequences using technology from almost 4 decades ago. Coming up next, we'll look at how the filmmakers created zero gravity before CGI revolutionized Hollywood's special effects. Spacecamp's technical achievements deserve more recognition than they typically receive. The film's space sequences were remarkably convincing for the mid-1980s, especially considering they were filmed years before CGI would transform how we depict space on screen. Director Harry Weiner and his team used a combination of wire work, carefully designed sets, and the Vomit Comet aircraft that NASA uses for actual astronaut training to create the illusion of weightlessness. The scenes where the young astronauts float through the shuttle corridors were groundbreaking for their time, using techniques that would later influence films like Apollo 13 and Gravity. The visual language of Spacecamp is particularly striking in how it contrasts Earth and space. On the ground at Spacecamp, cinematographer William Fraker employs warm, sun-drenched colors that capture the Alabama heat and the excitement of the young astronauts in training. But once in space, the palette shifts dramatically to cool blues and stark blacks, punctuated by the red glow of emergency lighting during crisis moments. This visual journey mirrors the character's emotional arc from summer camp enthusiasm
Yeah, some guy in the space station is gonna get a Big Mac attack.
to the cold reality of actual space travel. The moment when Catherine, Leah Thompson, first looks out at Earth from orbit, her face bathed in the blue light reflecting off our planet, encapsulates the film's awe and terror in a single frame. Production wasn't easy. Filming began in April 1985, nearly a year before the Challenger disaster. The crew worked closely with NASA, shooting at actual space agency facilities, including Kennedy Space Center, and using decommissioned equipment for authenticity. But as news of the Challenger tragedy broke, the filmmakers faced an impossible dilemma: continue with a now uncomfortable premise or abandon the project entirely. They chose to push forward, making subtle script changes to acknowledge the heightened stakes of space travel while maintaining the film's optimistic core.
I am ready.
Here's a behind-the-scenes detail most people don't know. Actual NASA astronauts served as technical consultants on the film, including Charles Pete Conrad, the third person to walk on the moon during Apollo 12. Their involvement ensured that despite being a family adventure film, Spacecamp depicted NASA protocols with surprising accuracy. The launch sequence, emergency procedures, and even the minor details like how the characters handled equipment in zero gravity were all vetted by people who had actually been to space. Coming up next, we'll look at how a young Joaquin Phoenix, then known as Leaf, stole scenes as the space-obsessed Max, and how the chemistry among the cast elevated what could have been just another kid's adventure film into something more memorable. The performances in Spacecamp elevate the material beyond typical 80s youth adventure fare.
We'll make them stop!
Kate Capshaw, fresh off Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, brings a compelling mix of authority and vulnerability to her role as Andy, the instructor who finds herself responsible for the kids' survival. Watch her face during the accidental launch sequence, the gradual shift from disbelief to terror to determination tells the entire emotional story without a word of dialogue. But it's the younger cast members who truly shine. Leah Thompson, riding high from Back to the Future, portrays Catherine with the perfect balance of ambition and self-doubt. Her journey from competitive overachiever to collaborative team member forms the emotional core of the film. Kelly Preston brings depth to the seemingly shallow Tish, while Tate Donovan's Kevin evolves from cocky pilot to humbled leader. And then, there's young Joaquin Phoenix, credited as Leaf, as Max, the space-obsessed youngest camper. His connection with the robot Jinx provides the film's most emotionally resonant relationship, culminating in the heartbreaking moment where he tells the robot, "You're my only friend." The scene where the shuttle Atlantis accidentally launches remains the film's most intense sequence. The confusion on the ground, the terror in the shuttle, and the dawning realization that they're actually in space, all played with convincing panic by the young cast. This moment works so well because it taps into both the wonder and fear that space travel represents. As the kids press their faces to the windows, seeing Earth from orbit for the first time, their expressions of awe remind us why humans look to the stars in the first place. These performances connect directly to the film's central theme, finding your purpose and place in the universe, quite literally in this case. Each character faces a crisis of confidence that mirrors America's own complicated relationship with space exploration in the mid-80s. Andy's fear of returning to space after a traumatic experience parallels NASA's post-Challenger soul-searching. Catherine's journey from wanting to be the first person on Mars to learning that personal glory matters less than teamwork reflects a more mature understanding of space exploration as a collaborative human endeavor. Interestingly, Tom Skerritt, who plays the camp director, had recently appeared in Alien, bringing subtle connective tissue between adult and youth-oriented space films. And Joaquin Phoenix, just 11 years old during filming, showed the emotional range that would later make him one of Hollywood's most respected actors. His casting came after director Harry Weiner saw him in a television film and recognized the intensity he could bring to Max's obsession with space. But if you think the shuttle launch was the film's biggest challenge, wait until you hear how audiences and critics initially received a movie about an accidental space disaster just months after Challenger. Coming up next, we'll explore Spacecamp's difficult reception and its journey to cult status. When Spacecamp hit theaters in June 1986, critics and audiences weren't ready. The Washington Post called its release timing clueless, while Roger Ebert, though praising the film's technical merits, noted the unsettling parallels to the Challenger disaster. Opening to just $2.9 million against heavyweight competition like Top Gun and The Karate Kid Part 2, the film quickly disappeared from theaters. What should have been a summer hit became an uncomfortable reminder of a national tragedy. But something interesting happened in the years that followed. As Spacecamp found its way to cable television and VHS rentals, younger viewers discovered it without the immediate shadow of Challenger. Kids who watched it at home weren't thinking about NASA's darkest hour. They were captivated by the adventure and the idea that people their age could solve problems in space using science, teamwork, and courage. The film faced its share of criticism beyond its timing. Many reviewers found Jinx the robot implausible, with his ability to hack NASA systems and launch a space shuttle stretching credibility even for a family film. Scientists pointed out numerous technical inaccuracies. The space shuttle couldn't actually be launched by a robot. The oxygen supply wouldn't deplete so quickly, and the thermal tiles couldn't be repaired in the way depicted. Yet, these same elements that critics derided have contributed to the film's charm and memorability decades later. Audience perception shifted dramatically as the years passed. What was once too soon gradually transformed into a nostalgic touchstone for Generation X and older millennials. The film's optimistic view of space exploration, even in the face of danger, eventually aligned with America's renewed interest in NASA missions. By the 1990s, as the Spacecamp shuttle program continued successfully, Spacecamp found appreciation for its core message, that space exploration, despite its risks, represents humanity's highest aspirations. Did you catch the hidden detail that the fictional shuttle in the film is named Atlantis, which was actually the fourth space shuttle built? It would complete 33 successful missions before the shuttle program ended in 2011. The film also features authentic NASA terminology, equipment designs, and training procedures that were verified by astronaut consultants. These small touches of realism help the film age better than many of its contemporaries, giving it a documentary-like quality in certain scenes despite its fantastical premise. The film's most controversial scene, where the kids must repair the shuttle's thermal tiles during a spacewalk, has been both criticized for its inaccuracy and praised for capturing the problem-solving spirit essential to space exploration. It's a perfect example of how Spacecamp balances technical liberties with emotional truths about courage and resourcefulness. But Spacecamp's most remarkable evolution wasn't just in how audiences perceived it. It's in how it influenced a generation of space enthusiasts. Coming up next, we'll explore how this box office disappointment quietly shaped modern space culture, and why its message resonates even more strongly in today's era of commercial spaceflight. The influence of Spacecamp extends far beyond its modest box office performance. The film helped establish a template for space-themed young adult adventures that would follow, from Flight of the Navigator to Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century. Its DNA can even be found in more recent productions like the Mars Generation documentary and Netflix's Lost in Space reboot, stories about young people confronting the challenges of space travel with ingenuity and courage. What makes Spacecamp particularly relevant today is how accurately it predicted our current fascination with space tourism and civilian spaceflight. The film's premise, ordinary people training for space, once seemed like pure fantasy. Yet in 2025, we're witnessing civilians actually flying to space aboard SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic vehicles. The real-life Spacecamp in Huntsville, Alabama, which saw enrollment surge after the film's release, continues to operate, with many alumni going on to careers at NASA, SpaceX, and similar organizations. Some astronauts, including Dottie Metcalf-Lindenberger, who flew on Space Shuttle Discovery in 2010, have cited the film as an early inspiration. The cultural significance of Spacecamp has grown as its young audience matured into today's scientists, engineers, and space entrepreneurs. What critics dismissed as a fantastical adventure actually helped nurture a generation's interest in space exploration during a time when public support for NASA was wavering. The film's central message, that space belongs not just to professional astronauts, but to dreamers of all ages, has been validated by the democratization of space we're witnessing today. Spacecamp's treatment of failure and recovery feels particularly poignant when viewed through a modern lens. Released during NASA's recovery from disaster, the film doesn't shy away from depicting the dangers of space travel, yet it ultimately affirms that the risks are worth taking. This balance between acknowledging danger while embracing exploration mirrors our current national conversation about ambitious missions to the Moon and Mars. Spacecamp isn't just a nostalgic relic. It's a powerful cultural artifact that captured America's complicated love affair with space exploration at a pivotal moment. The film reminds us that our journey to the stars isn't just about technology and science, but about human determination and wonder. Its greatest achievement may be how it portrayed space exploration, not as the exclusive domain of elite astronauts, but as a natural extension of human curiosity that even kids can participate in. A perspective that's become increasingly mainstream as private companies open space to more civilians. What do you think? Does Spacecamp's optimistic view of civilian space travel resonate more strongly now than when it was released? Has its vision of everyday people traveling to space been validated by recent developments? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into a film that helped shape our collective space dreams, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more analyses of movies that changed how we see our world and worlds beyond.